Forms are basically used to collect information from the user. Let me show you how to create a form. So when I type in form and I hit on tab button, you can see that we get this action thing. I'm going to get rid of this for now. I'm going to show you what that is later. So after this, what I'm going to do is inside that, I'm going to type in input, type is text, and right after that, I'm going to type in input, type is submit. So when I save this, basically what I have done is I have created two fields for the user to do something. One which collects the information, next is a submit button. So let me get back to the browser and let me hit on refresh. Now you can see that we have a input field and a submit button. So if the user types in his name and when he hits on submit button, check out what happens in the URL. If I hit on submit button, see nothing. We just get this question mark, nothing else more. Let me remove this and let me show you this again. Okay, this is how we get the file, but when you type in the name and when I hit on the submit button, see nothing happens. You just get a question mark. So basically any data which is sent from the form is sent through a URL. So let's see how we can work with that one. So let's get back to our code. In forms, we have two types of methods. We have a get method and we have a post method. I'm going to show you how these things work. So by default, your form is set to a get method. So we'll say method is get. So let me save this. And after this, we need to specify a name for this. So I'm going to give a name called f name. Say first name. Let me save this. And if I get back to my browser, let me remove this question mark and let's hit refresh. Okay, now I can type in my name. When I hit on submit button, you see we get the details over here. We have f name is equals to Fatah. Okay, so let me get back here and let me create a password field. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a br tag, a line break. I'm going to type in another input. Type is a password. I'm going to give a name for this as password. Let me close this. So if I get back to my browser and let me hit refresh now, I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, so we have a name and a password. I'm going to set the username to Fatah and I'm going to set the password as 123. When I hit on submit button, check out what happens in the URL. We get the f name is equals to Fatah and the next field is actually connected with an ampersand sign. Then we have the name for the password, that is password, and then it is set to 123. But usually the password and the username has to be encrypted, right? We are not supposed to show that to the user. So what we need to do is, this is the part where we'll be using the post method. So if you set it to the post method, let me get rid of this thing now and let me try that again. So I'm going to say Fatah, I'm going to set it to 123. When I hit on submit button, see nothing happens. But when I try to refresh, I get an error message, a confirmation message actually. It says that this page seems to be having some kind of information. Do you want to continue or something like that? So I'm going to hit on cancel and instead now we'll have to hit refresh over here. Every website requires three different types of forms: a contact form, a login form, and a registration form. In this class, I'm going to show you how to create these three forms. So first, I'm going to create a contact form. So for that, let's create a form tag. I don't need any action over here. And now inside this, I'm going to create a table tag. And inside this table, let's create a tr and a tt. So here will be the name. So I'll say name, give a column, just duplicate that, and that's going to be input. Type is text. I'm going to specify the name as c underscore name. So that will be the contact name. And we want it to be required. So the user has to fill in the data. He cannot skip it. Let's copy this one. Let's click on the next one. This is going to be email. And this will also become an email. So C email. Let's copy this one again. I'm going to set this one to a phone number. So I'm going to set this to phone. So the input type here becomes tel and c underscore tel, and that's required too. And we need to add a subject line. So I'm just going to paste this here, and this is going to be subject. So subject is a text. So I'm going to set this as text. C sub. That's required too. So the next one is the message. So I'm just going to put in some details here. I call this as message, and here the input field changes. So instead of specifying input, we'll be using a text area. So we'll say text area, specify the name as c underscore mass. I don't need an ID for this right now, and we can specify how many columns and how many rows we require. So we need around like 30 columns, and 10 rows is too much, so I'm going to set it to 5. Then I'm going to copy this one here, just copy that, then let's paste it over here, and I don't need any name, so I'm going to remove this, and this will become input type as submit, and this will be c send, so the user can send the details. I'm going to get rid of this one. So let me copy this URL now and paste it in the Google Chrome browser. Let's see how that looks like. Okay, we have a contact form. Now usually we don't want a submit button here. What we need is a send message option. Let's get back to our code, and here what we can do is we can specify a value for this. We'll call this as send message. Let me save that. If I get back to my browser and if I hit refresh, I can see that has changed to send message. Okay, now let's create a login form. I'm going to save this one. Let me close this, and I'm going to get back to the login form.html, and here let's open a form tag. I don't need any action there. Now we can specify a table, the tr_td, and I'll specify this as username. Let's duplicate that, and we'll type this as input, type is text, and we can specify the name as u_name. Okay, we need that, so that's going to be required. So let's copy this, and then let's paste it over here, and this will be password, and the input type will be password, and the name is going to be upass. That's going to be required too. I'm just going to copy this again. Let's paste it, and we don't need any name here, so I'm going to get rid of this. So let's say input type is submit, and here I'm going to set the name as ulogin, and we can set the value as login to continue. Okay, let's save this. I'm going to copy this URL here. Let's get back to our browser and paste it. Okay, we have the username and password, but check out what happens. I'm just going to type in my username as Fatah and password as 123. When I hit on login to continue, it's kind of showing me all the details. We need to hide those things. So let's get back to this one, and here we need to set this to the method as post. And if I get back to my browser now, and let me remove all these items. Okay, so now if I type Fatah and password as 123, and if it on login to continue, nothing shows up. But there's a small issue. See what happens when I directly hit on login to continue. If I directly click on this, it shows me that please fill out this field. So basically we are giving a kind of validation. Until and unless the user fills up the data, he will not be able to continue. Now this is happening because we have the required field set in. So this is very important. Don't let the input fields empty so that the user can just send you a blank information. If you require the complete information of the user, like his email ID, phone number, his address, like for example, if you have an e-commerce website and you want to ship some of the goods to his location, you need all those information. So for that thing, we'll be using a registration form. To do that, let's create a form. I'm going to remove this action, and here we'll create a table. Say tr and td. That's going to be the name of the person, and it will be a input type as text, and I specify the name as r_name. That's the registration name. We need that. That's going to be required. So let me copy this. Let me paste it again, and this will be his email ID. So we'll call this as input type as email, r email. We need his email ID too. So let's copy this again, and we need a phone number, so I'm going to call this as phone. Input type is tel and our phone. Okay, that's required too. So I'm just gonna copy this again, and then what we require is some extra information. For example, if this guy is registering, we need to set up a password for him. So we'll say password. So we'll call this as password. So this is going to be our pass. So the next thing what we require is a date of birth. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it over here. This is going to be DOB, that is date of birth, and the type it will be changed to date. So we'll say our date. Let's save that. And the next one what we need is his gender. So I'm going to paste this here. I'm going to call this as gender. Now in gender we can create a group of input. So I'm going to call this as input. Type is radio, and I'm going to set this one to male. Let's give a BR tag. Let's type another one called input type as radio. I'm going to set this one to female. Okay, so what we need to do here is we need to specify the same name but a different value. So we'll say name is gender. I'm going to copy the same name for this, and then we can paste it over here, and then we have to specify a different value. So we'll call this as male, and we'll call this one value as female. Okay, that should do it. Let me create a submit button and let us check how this actually looks like. So I'm just going to paste it here. I'm going to change this one to nothing. It's going to be blank, so this will be submit. So our date is going to be our reg. Okay, I'm going to remove this. We'll specify a value called register. I'm going to save that. Let's copy the URL. Let's go to our browser, select this one, and paste and refresh. Okay, so we have these details. So let me check out how this thing works. So I'm going to set the first name as Fatah, email as fathahgabriel@gmail.com, and my phone number, I'm going to set this as 1234567. Okay, password as 123, and I'm going to set my date of birth. I'm going to just select a random date, and now you can see what happens if I can select male or female. So I can choose only one. So if I hit on register, that should give me all the details I need. So see, everything is available here now. If I scroll a little bit ahead, I should be able to get gender. Okay, we got the gender as male. That's great. So the next one what we need is a select option where we can actually select the country. So I'm just going to copy this one, then paste it over here. I'm going to set this one to country. So I'm going to set this, I'm going to remove this, and now we have a new option called select, and this is going to be our country, and we don't need an ID here, so I'm going to get rid of this, and we do require this. I'm going to set this as required, and let's specify the option. Now each and every option will have a value, so we'll say India, and we'll set this one also as India. Let me duplicate this, select this one and this one. Okay, this is going to be like USA. We can change this one to Canada, and stuff like that. Let's save this. Let's get back to our browser and hit refresh. I can see that we have a drop down. Great, we have built a complete registration page.